In today's video, I'm going to be telling you about DNS servers. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and this is the translator between the computer and the human so that they can both understand each other and find a medium of communication that works. The same way a French person and a Spanish person want to both communicate and they don't understand each other, there will be a translator. Or the same way you have a Yoruba pastor speaking Yoruba and you have an English translator beside them translating to people that don't understand Yoruba but understand English.
Everybody shout hallelujah.
This same way is how you would have DNS helping as that translator between the human and the computers. And if you want to know more about DNS, let's get right into this video. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adora, and like I said in the beginning, today we're going to be talking about DNS servers. I'm going to be talking about how DNS works, and I'm also going to be taking you through some very common DNS records. Initially, I talked about the fact that computers use numbers as a way to communicate over a network. Humans can use numbers too, don't get me wrong, but it's hard. Let's look at this for example. You know the IP address of your own personal website. You know the IP address for google.com. Are you going to know every single IP address for every single website that you want to visit at some point? It's very hard. Even thinking about the most basic one right now, you have your contacts list on your phone. Do you know every single phone number for every single contact on your phone? You don't, because if you did, you wouldn't need that contact list in the first place. You would pick up your phone and you would make a quick phone call. With DNS, you would not need to remember as many numbers so that you don't get them mixed up, but just remember the name, type into the address bar, and you get returned the website or the resource that you're trying to access over the internet. If you like this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up when you're watching it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please make sure that you subscribe. I would really appreciate this as it will help the channel grow. So this thing called DNS was developed by network engineers as a way for communication between humans and computers to be seamless. So let me give you this example. My website is adoranwodo.com. If I want to go to my website, what's going to happen is I type adoranwodo.com into the address bar on the browser, and then that domain name gets resolved to the IP address and my website's resources are returned back to the browser. However, if I do not want to type adoranwodo.com and I know the IP address to my website, I could also type that straight away and that would still take me to my website. DNS is not always important because DNS only comes in play when you are typing the domain name. If you know the IP address straight away, you can bypass DNS servers and all of that. And DNS works like a dictionary, like a phone book, like a directory, where a domain name maps to an IP address. In this next section of the video, I'm going to be explaining to you how that mapping works. For that mapping to work, there are 5 things that are very important for this whole DNS system to exist, for it to work the way it's supposed to work. There's the client, which is me, which is my computer that has an operating system. There's the DNS resolver, there's the root name server, there's the TLD server, also known as the top level domain server, and there's the authoritative name server. So I know that right now all these things sound like gibberish, but in a moment I promise you they would make a lot of sense. So now let me start to explain the process of trying to retrieve an IP address from a DNS server. On my laptop, I type the address google.com. The first thing my OS does, the first thing that happens in my computer is that they would check my cache to see if I have an IP that this DNS name resolves to, that this domain name resolves to. If that IP already exists on my local computer, then I can go to that IP, retrieve all the resources that exist there and have that displayed in my browser. If that's not the case for whatever reason, then my OS makes a call to the DNS resolver. And the DNS resolver is normally provided by your ISP. your internet service provider, depending on whether it's MTN, SpectraNet, Airtel, AT&T, whatever it is. And what happens then is that the resolver also checks the cache. Okay, can I find this IP address that maps to this DNS name? If I can find it as a resolver, I'll send it back to the caller, and that will be the end. If for whatever reason I can't find it, then we go to step 3. Step 3 means the resolver is contacting the root server, and the root server is like the Oga of everything. The root server is the head of everything. There are only 13 sets of root name servers in the whole world. When the root name server gets that request, the root name server doesn't actually know what IP address the domain is pointed to. So what happens then is that the root name server checks the extension of that domain. Okay, are you a .com? Are you a .net? Are you a .org? Who are you? And when that happens, the root name server now routes to the TLD server that would have the information for that particular domain. So a top level domain server stores all the information for all the domains with that particular extension. Like a .com TLD would store information for .com sites. A .net TLD server would store details for a .net site. So when the root name server now redirects to the TLD server, the TLD finds a way to map to the authoritative name server. And this authoritative name server is what actually has the information that we need. What happens is these authoritative name servers store information about these particular domains, and these sort of information are called DNS records. Under DNS records, the IP address we're looking for is a kind of DNS record called an A record. The A record means address record, and the address record actually maps to the IP address of that domain. When I get to the authoritative name server and I find all the details for the domain that I want, I simply retrieve the address record and return it back to the DNS resolver, who returns it back to the client. So now that I have talked about how DNS works, I'm going to be talking to you about the common DNS records that exist. We have the A record, we have the CNAME record, we have the MX record, we have the TXT record, and we have the NS. I'm now going to be explaining to you in detail what these different DNS records mean and what they do. So the first one that I talked about initially was the A record, which means address record, right? Let's say I want to find the IP address for a particular domain. I already told you initially that DNS records are like a dictionary or a phone book and address book. So if I want to find the A record for the particular for the domain adoranwodo.com, under the adoranwodo.com domain, I'm going to have the type being an A record, the name being an @ sign. @ means naked, which means no subdomains, no www, nothing of that sort. If you want to go to adoranwodo.com, what is the IP address to that? I can also have A records for subdomain names on my domain. So let's say I have an A record for something like blog.adoranwodo.com. I want to find the IP address for blog.adoranwodo.com. I could check the adoranwodo.com domain and look for an A record that has blog as the name. So if I look for an A record with the name blog, whatever address it points to is the IP address for my subdomain blog.adoranwodo.com. What creates the subdomain is the name of the record. Let's say the name of the record was courses. I can have a DNS A record pointing to an IP address, and how I'll be able to resolve to that IP address is if I go and type courses.adoranwodo.com. The next record I want to talk about is the CNAME record, which is the canonical name. And this helps you map your current domain to a new domain. Let me give this example. Let's say I have a web app, a website, and I called it Adora's blog. So now it's adorasblog.azurewebsites.net, and I want it to be under blog.adoranwodo.com. I can create a CNAME record where the name of my CNAME record will be blog and the value of my CNAME record will be that domain name. The next record is an MX server record, and this helps you route emails to the server that you want them to be in. So let's say I have an MS record for my naked domain. So that means anybody that does at adoranwodo.com, this is the mail server I want them to route to. Contact at adoranwodo.com, bookings at adoranwodo.com. I want it to route to let's say mail.example.com. There's something about MX records as well. You can have multiple MX records for the same name in your domain. So I can also have another MX record for the naked domain that points to mail3.example.com. The next question you might be asking is, okay, I have these two domains, or rather, I have these two MX records for the same name, which is the naked domain, pointing to different domains or different servers. How do I know the one to use? There's something called priority mapping. So what's going to happen is you can give a high priority to one mail server and a lower priority to another mail server. By default, it would map to the mail server with a higher priority. But if for any reason that one is down or that one has plenty load or whatever, then it falls back to the one with the lower priority. The next one is the TXT record, and most times these records are used to, assign some kind of text to a domain name. If you've ever had to do anything that requires that the external service wants to be sure that you have access to this domain, that's okay, this is how I show domain ownership. Sometimes they'll tell you, oh, okay, please upload this text file to the root directory, or please add this line to the header tag in your index.html or something like that. These are ways that you verify domain ownership. Another way to verify domain ownership is by adding a text record to one of your DNS records. So sometimes you get a very long string and they'll just be like, oh, okay, please add this text record as one of your DNS records. So what will happen is, maybe if they try and retrieve that text record, whatever the value of that text record is, if it maps to what it's supposed to map to, then they're like, yes, you are the owner of this domain, and then you can go ahead and carry on doing whatever it is that you wanted to do with that external service that required you to do a domain ownership test first. So that's what text records are for. And the same way you can have them on naked domains, you can also have them on subdomains. And the final one I want to talk about is the NS record, which is also called the name server record. Now, we've talked about authoritative name servers, we talked about top level domains, we talked about DNS resolvers and all of this stuff. The NS record is just an entry to the actual authoritative name server that has details for that particular domain. So in this video, I have talked about how DNS works. I have talked about whether DNS is actually important or not if you're looking at it. And I've also talked about the common DNS records that exist. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to me, please make sure that you subscribe. The button is here, somewhere here. Until we meet again next time. Bye.